up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rides. I'm here at Furman Mazda in Clearwater, Florida, and lo and behold, we have the all-new, redesigned, top to bottom, front to back, side to side, Mazda 3. Now, before we go too crazy with that redesign, now remember, the exterior and interior has been redesigned, but underneath that hood is going to be that same 2.5 inline 4 pumping out a nice sweet 186 horsepower, 186 foot-pounds of torque. But as you can see, we got a lot more to talk about than what's underneath the hood, because this exterior is something that's very striking, very different, and I think there's going to be some people on the fence that are either going to love it or hate it. But let's talk a little bit of history about Mazda. Believe it or not, Mazda started off as a corporation all the way back in 1920. And it had absolutely positively nothing to do with cars and automobiles. It was a cork producing company. Yes, cork of all things. I know that's very exciting, but in 1931, Mazda developed its first vehicle, and it wasn't a car, it was a three-wheel vehicle called the Mazda Go. Very different, very unique, but that is what's going to carry Mazda through the years to become such an established Japanese auto manufacturer. They may not be as big and powerful as Toyota or Honda, but you know what? They're coming out with some great ideas, some great styling at wonderful prices. The Mazda 3 first came out onto the scene here in the United States back in 2004, and since then, it's really been one of those cars that fits a lot of different people's needs and wants, because you could get this car in two different flavors. We have the hatchback here, but you could also get it in a sedan. And like I said, it's just wonderful for a company like Mazda to focus on something that's sporty, something that's fun, and something that's not an SUV, because they have plenty of SUVs and they're great, and we're going to feature those as well here from Furman Mazda. But let's go ahead and dive in to this all-new 2019 Mazda 3. Right off the bat, you'll notice that this is all based off the design philosophy of that Kodo design styling from Mazda. There's really not a straight line on this car. Love the front end. I really like the way that they didn't go with any kind of fake vents or anything like that. Really just cleans up the whole look, and with this metallic gray, sparkles in the Florida sun. I love how small and sinister the LED lighting is. Those housings are just getting so close. And one thing I want Tom to show you is just how sunken in the headlight is. There's actually quite a bit of front fascia that's sticking in front of the headlight housing and really gives it an aggressive look. This wide open mouth, I'm telling you, is what's going to separate this car from so many other cars on the road. Love the style. They decided to switch it up a little bit with gloss black, but you know what? It looks really good. You have that wonderful Mazda logo that's hiding all the radar and sensory stuff for adaptive cruise control and all that wonderful stuff. But just love the lower portion. It's sort of like a nice metallic gray that's just a little bit different from the color of the car. But all the way across, very clean lines. And then I think it was very smart to go with a nice flat black lower lip spoiler. I like the way it's just wide, and it also just very seamlessly goes right into the rest of the front fascia. Very clean. Going up onto the hood, you can see how they take the body lines from the front nose up onto the hood. As we wrap it around, you can see that nice clear. It's almost like an organic shape. Mazda does a lot of work. A lot of car companies are moving away from using clay to shape cars and design cars. They're using more the CAD and computers and all that magic gizmo stuff. I like the good old-fashioned clay modeling design because it really allows the designer to do their work. Beautiful 18-inch wheel. Love the color. I think it works perfect with this paint job. And Mazda has some really great colors, especially that soul red. Amazing, not only on the hatchback, but also on the sedan as well. But I love the style of the wheel. 18-inch wheel looks great. As we transition down the side, you can see just how curved, how seamless everything is. When we go up into the A pillar here, very small amount of flat black plastic, which is great. I like the position of the head of the side mirrors, and I love the design of it. You have a very thin LED turn signal, and then I think it was also smart to go with the ABS flat black. That's going to take a better beating over time rather than the gloss. As we go into the roofline, one thing that I think that is so great about these hatchbacks of the Mazda 3 is just how low they are. It's almost like it's low and it's elongated, sort of like a bullet in a way. It looks really different and separates it from anything else on the market. Nice color matched door handles, just a little bit of chrome trim on the top of the door here, but as we drop down, I think this was very smart. This lower side skirt that flares out, it actually flares out from the front and gets wider towards the back. That is an aerodynamic functional piece, plus it looks good. So that's a win-win. Now here's probably where we're gonna get the biggest controversy, the debates, the arm wrestling competitions. Maybe you're gonna thumb wrestle somebody over it. Right here, the rear pillar. Very rounded, very large. I think it's gonna be one of those things, whether you love it or hate it, one thing's for sure, it separates it, like I said, from so many other hatchbacks on the road today. Very nice the way they bring the chrome right into the rear quarter window and it flares out a little bit. And as we come around the rear of the car, what I love about this Mazda 3 is that the front and the back make sense. As we drop down, you can see the gloss black roof spoiler. I don't think, let me just show you where the spoiler starts is actually all the way up here. So it's very wide and very seamless in how it connects with the actual roof. I like the use of the shark fin antenna on the top, makes it look 21st century. And then as we drop down, these LED taillights are some of the best in the business. This proves that, hey, guess what? You don't have to have a $100,000 car to have a nice set of taillights and a good looking rear end. Gloss black along the bottom. I know some people were saying that this is gonna take a beating. It'll be interesting to see how this turns out, but you know what? It looks so great with this color, and I'm glad that they took it as high as they did. Really adds to the style. Love the very simple, but to the point, twin exhaust outlets, one on each side. And here's another fun feature that I'm gonna point out again later. The actual hatch release is hidden behind the Mazda logo. Very smart. You got that Sky Active technology underneath the hood. Speaking of underneath the hood, let's go ahead and pop the one on this Mazda 3. Let's go do it. All right, guys, here we are underneath the hood of the 2019 Mazda 3. You know what? You pop the hood, and it's nice because there's not a ton of black plastic just all over the place. It's a pretty attractive looking cover. I like the way that they have the Mazda logo there, that Sky Active logo. One thing that's interesting is that if Tom goes to the back of the engine, closest to the firewall, you can see that there's a large opening there for a turbo. But guess what? Don't hold your breath. Mazda says a Mazda Speed 3 is not in the cards. But let's talk about this 2.5 liter. So it's the same carryover engine. There will be a 2 liter that will appear later into next year. You have your choice of a 6-speed automatic or a manual. You also have the option of all-wheel drive. MPGs, you're getting 27 in the city, 36 in the highway. 0 to 60 is about 7 seconds. The car weighs about 2,900 to 3,050 pounds, depending on how you have it set up. Top speed 130 miles an hour and quarter mile in about 15.4. So that's the wonderful thing with the new Mazda 3 is you have some options there, and there's not many auto manufacturers that are still giving you that option of a manual transmission. But if you're ready, I'm ready to fire this one up. Let's go ahead and fire up this inline 4. Alright guys, time for the interior section of this 2019 Mazda 3 hatchback. You can see this is where it was like full bore. They're gonna change up a lot. Let's start to the door panels. I love the quality of the materials. Very soft up top by the base of the window. I love the addition of the faux leather around the speaker cover near that handle to open the door. Also, talking about speaker cover, look at that brushed aluminum. I really like that feature. It really makes the car feel upscale. One thing I wish they would have done was taken the brushed aluminum and carried it into that silver trim. The other silver trim is more like a shiny chrome finish, and it kind of doesn't really match very well. But leather all over the door handle really well. As you transition to the dash, nice soft material, that wonderful faux leather going all the way across. I love the stitching that's involved, makes it look really upscale. And here's really a big, huge change. An over 8-inch infotainment screen. Now, if you watched my old Mazda 3 video on the 2018, this was a touchscreen. The new one is not a touchscreen, so you're gonna use all the controls from the center console. Now, if I'm gonna zonk this area, it no longer has icons. So it just gives you a list of the different things to go into without actual picture icons, and it's no longer a touchscreen. I think the reason why they didn't do touchscreen anymore is because it's a little bit further of a reach compared to the 2018 Mazda 3. As you transition down, this all speaks Audi to me. How clean it is, very sleek. You got dual climate control, very nice knobs on that AC system, very good digital display. You have heated seats, very easy to use. USB here, and then here's where there's some nice stuff going on. So you actually have a cubby in front of the door here for the center console. That's obviously where you're going to put your phone and whatnot. If I was going to zonk this, I would like to see another USB, but at least they got one up here and they have that cubby. Now, if you're wondering, well, where are the cup holders? Because it's a different setup in here than on a 2018. Cup holders are actually underneath here, so they move the cup holders forward. And what that does is it allows more room here. This is going to control that 6-speed automatic transmission. I love the leather. I love the leather boot. And then this is something that's very similar to like the BMW's iDrive and whatnot, the iController, where you could actually go through your Navi setup, your infotainment setup, all through the knob. Now, they made this one larger. They also worked on adjusting the volume knob for the radio as well. And then you're going to have your electric e-brake, and just like last time, you have that switch to put it into sport mode. Now, sport mode doesn't change horsepower or anything like that, but it does adjust the throttle sensitivity and where that transmission is holding that gear. This is probably one of my favorite pieces right here. I love the size of this armrest. So because they put the cup holders up here, the armrest has gotten larger. Love the quality, and you can see the leather is really, really nice everywhere you touch. Here's another nice thing. Watch this. So if you're wondering, well, there's only one USB here, you actually just click back. You have another USB, and you also have a 12 volt in there and access to underneath the actual lid without having to lift it up. So that's a really nice touch. If you don't want to look at it, you just have it sealed up, and then you're going to go like that, and that gains you access into a nice deep center console for a compact car. When it comes to the seats, love the leather material, love the softness. This is probably some of the best seats in any compact car that is on the market today. I don't care if it's a Toyota, Honda, whatever. This Mazda it feels much more upscale than a lot of the other brands. Why don't you come on over here to the driver's side and I'll show you the business end and the changes behind the wheel. Come on over. All right, guys, here we are, business time, behind the wheel of the Mazda 3. If you're wondering, well, what is the MSRP? Before we go any further, Joe, what's the MSRP on this one? This one sits at $26,000 and some change, the way that it's optioned out. Let's go to the seats. Like I said, very comfortable. Driver's side is full power assist, and you can see 6 feet tall, lots of room, and I'm telling you right now, these seats are comfy. There's a little bit of bolstering, but nothing too crazy and aggressive. I do like the steering wheel. They changed up the design of it. They made the horn button different. I like the way they have some nice silver trim here, but the steering wheel has a very sporty feel, and they actually made it even more thin than what it was before. Now, the problem that I have with that is a lot of these buttons are kind of squeezed together very tightly. So don't be surprised if you're driving this car and you may accidentally hit some other button than what you want. Speaking of the dash though, look at that. That is pure beauty. I love the way they went with a digital. Guess what? That digital speedometer in the center, it looks analog, but it's not. It's actually digital. I could hit this info button on the wheel and it'll actually transition through all the different features. I like the digital on the side that's changing as I toggle through. You have your tachometer on the left, good old traditional tach, and you have obviously a digital fuel gauge and some analog temperature and also analog fuel gauge. So you actually have the fuel gauge that's digital is your range, and then the fuel gauge that's in the cluster is your actual analog fuel gauge. Probably the biggest complaint we're going to hear from a lot of people with the Mazda 3 is, guess what? Out back, underneath those fenders, there's no longer a multi-link suspension. They went just with the torsion beam, and Mazda says that it's going to be okay. The car is still going to handle great. We're going to take this one for a spin and find out. But before we do, let's get in the back seat and see what kind of room we're dealing with back there. All right, guys, back seat time in the hatchback. I'm sure you're probably wondering, Joe, do you feel cramped in here? You know what? Once you get in, there is a good amount of head space for taller people back here. The seats, I'm telling you, are just as comfortable as the front, so that's not going to be a problem on the longer drive. What Mazda did very smart is they cut out some of the back of the seat to allow you to have some leg room there, some extra leg room, and I also like the way the whole thing is covered in leather. As we move to the center, you have a very nice padded armrest, 2 cup holders that are very, very good, but you can see my knees are bent pretty well. I feel actually very comfortable back here and can go on a longer drive. The only problem is there's no USB back here for your passengers. So that to me seems that that should be a norm no matter what kind of car we're talking about that is made in the year 2019. I would like to see some USB, but other than that, I really think Mazda did a great job back here. Let's go check out the cargo area. All right, guys, time for probably the most important part, like I say, of any hatchback. What can we put in that cargo area? So just like I showed you, it's nice that they hid the button behind the Mazda logo. It lifts up very light, and there you can see the amount of room. There is a bit of a drop once you put something in, but that's going to allow you to have something that's a little taller. Those seats are obviously going to do the 60-40 split, and it's one of those things that there's plenty of space to do the things that you need to do each and every day, plus have a nice sporty outside wrapper to it. But you know, it comes a time in any Radies Rides video, if you're ready, I'm ready to take this Mazda 3 for a spin. Let's go do it. All right, guys, we are leaving Furman Mazda in Clearwater, Florida, and in the 2019 Mazda 3, this is the hatchback. I really like it. You know, if I'm gonna zonk the feeling inside the car, there is a lot of dark material, and if it was my hatchback that I was gonna buy, you could actually go with like a dark red, which I think would really just kind of cut some of that overall darkness in the car, even though it's a darker red color. I have it in sport mode. We're obviously in the 6-speed automatic. Let me go ahead and get on it real quick. Peppy little engine. Remember, it's naturally aspirated, so you have a nice linear torque curve. Power delivery is great, very smooth. You're not waiting around for any kind of boost in all Mazda 3s, even though, because remember, this one has the preferred package, so that's going to give us some extra niceties in and around the car. Even non-preferred package, there's more sound deadening material in the Mazda 3 than the outgoing one, and I'll be honest, you could tell that this is a quieter interior. Going around that tight bend there, it handles still just as sporty as the outgoing one. Now remember, you're losing the multi-link. They decided to cut that cost and just put a torsion beam back there at the rear of the car. But going into that right-hand bend still has a very planted, connected feel. Obviously, I would need to take this somewhere where there's a bunch of twisty turns to really get the overall effect of this Mazda 3. But let me go ahead and get on it a little bit, and I know there's some flowing turns up here to see how the car is balanced. So through that left-right combination and through this right-hand longer bend, still very direct steering. It has a nice weight to it.
and I like the overall way that the car communicates, especially from the front and even the back. Yes, if we push this a little harder on a tighter road, I think that torsion beam setup is going to show some of its limitations. But as you saw through that left right combination, it felt really good, planted, and I really like the feedback coming from the front wheels, especially because remember, this is front wheel drive. You can get all wheel drive. This one isn't front wheel drive, is front wheel drive, and still lots of great feedback from the car. I think one of my favorite parts of the Mazda 3 is when it comes to the interior, the steering wheel, great feel, great size, great shape, and the seats. These seats are so supportive yet comfortable. I wish more manufacturers would design a seat like this. Now, bolstering obviously on the sides could be higher, but that's not the purpose of this car. This isn't a Mazda Speed 3, unfortunately. They're not going to make it as of now, if ever. But this does have a nice sporty feel and great style. Just driving around, I've noticed people, they're cranking their neck over to look at the car because it does have such a distinct look to it. Really, that Alfa Romeo experience happening in the back portion of it for sure. Very smooth, very quiet. Everywhere you touch, you're welcomed with nice soft material. On the armrest, both the door and the center console, excellent. Easy to read that speedometer. Remember, speedometer is digital, and you could go through little functions by hitting the info button. Very simple to use. The only problem is if you want anything else, it's gonna be a little difficult to do it without looking because the buttons are a little tighter together. They thinned out the spokes of the wheel, makes it a more attractive looking wheel and not such a bulky wheel, but the buttons are a little tighter together. Love the size of the horn button. I love the shape and the Mazda logo staring you right smack dab in the center. You have that great infotainment. You see how it's out of my reach? That's why they don't have touchscreen anymore. It's out of your reach. They want you to use that controller on the center console to go through your different settings. All right, guys, so using the wheel for that information system, you could get into your different settings real simple with the knob, and I'm glad that they made the knob larger, and it's just easy to navigate through, especially if you want to get back to home. Once you're back to home, you could go into your entertainment. You have your radio knob right here, real easy to use. This one does have the upgraded Bose sound system, which comes on that preferred package setup. But just everywhere you feel and look, it's really, really good. Now, visibility, I'll be honest, out the back window, it's a little tight, but you know, it's, what do you want? Do you want more style? You want more usability? If you want more usability, you're gonna need a larger vehicle with a larger rear window. But other than that, the side windows, the front window, everything is perfectly placed. I actually think that in this car, the way that the mirrors are, it's a little bit different than on the sedan, and I actually like it better in the hatchback rather than the sedan. But definitely, if it was going to be my choice, I would go hatchback route. Love the digital display, like I pointed out earlier, with the AC controls. Easy to see, easy to reach, easy to look at, and it works very, very well. Of course, I would like to see something like ventilated seats, but that's going to drive up the price point. This one, like we said, MSRP $26,000. Go around this corner here and get on it. Torque steer is not too bad. Obviously, with it being front wheel drive, all that power going to the front wheels, you are going to get a little bit of torque steer. But other than that, it's a joy to drive this car. Very smooth and communicates really well, surprisingly, even after they made that suspension change at the rear end of the car. So we're gonna get back to Furman Mazda and wrap this 2019 Mazda 3 hatchback up. So we'll see you in a second. All right, guys, it's been a wonderful day here at Furman Mazda. I just got to give a huge shout out to Rob, Bob, and Matt, and everybody here at the dealership.
allowing us access to the all-new 2019 Mazda 3. If these are the types of cars you like to see on Rady's Rides, leave a little comment in that comment section. If you're new to the channel and you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile coming back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you. Thank you for being part of the Rady's Rides family. We appreciate your support and love. If you haven't checked out my different forms of social media, you know what they're called. It's all Rady's Rides original content. If you want some merch, click that link in the description to help support Rady's Rides. It'll take you right to Spreadshirt. And then finally, the man, the myth, the legend, he's getting ready for his next competition, eating like a horse, lifting like a bull, strong as bull. Thank you, Tom Motioner, for all your hard work. Want to check out Tom's new Instagram page, focusing on his photo abilities. I'm going to put that description and link down there for you. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.